may have heard if you saw my post this morning, it's Damon John from Shark Tank. So we're going to put a shark in the Shark Tank. It's just a cold tank, but I'm playing a little joke on Damon John. So I have put considerably more ice in his cold plunge than my cold plunge, which is why I'm laughing right now. So I'm trying to get his cold. I know I said colder is not better, longer is not better, but for purposes of having Damon John do it, cold plunge with us today, I have put a ton of ice in his cold plunge. So when I walk out there, I'm going to purposely take the cold plunge on the left and force him into the cold plunge on the right. And so just keep an eye on it because it's going to be funny. He's not going to like it, but he'll probably see my humor after he gets out. But we have an amazing other special guest today. I got so many questions, during when we were putting the cold plunge challenge out there. And by the way, do not tag Jamin John yet. I don't want him to know that he's getting in an ultra cold plunge today for 3 minutes. So we'll see how the shark does in the cold shark tank. But I get so many questions, guys, about women and menstruating, women's menstrual cycles and cold plunging, timing of cold plunging. If there's timing, a cold plunging is related to hormone balance or where women are in their menstrual cycle. So in 15 minutes, we're going to have Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, one of the top female functional medicine MDs on the planet, in my opinion. She wrote a great book on how muscle is related to longevity. She's an amazing physician. I'll talk about her book when she gets onto our live Zoom. But I want so women, if you've got specific questions about that, I want you to save those for Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's going to talk about hormone balance, fat loss, metabolism, the safety of doing cold plunging, whether you can cold plunge when you're pregnant, young or menstruating and where in your cycle, cold plunging may be more beneficial than other areas. So stay tuned. I sort of consolidated all those questions and said, I'll just get Dr. Gabrielle Lyon on and we'll have one of the top experts in the country take your questions directly. And then of course, we're going to jump in the cold plunge with Damon. And then afterwards, we'll take a little break. And then Damon and I are going to sit with the VIPs for about an hour, and we're just going to take questions direct. So if you'd like to get off topic from the ultimate human and from biohacking and longevity and anti-aging, and even ask some business questions, he's going to be wide open. So you'll have access to one of the top sharks from Shark Tank for a full hour if you're one of our VIPs, and you can direct any question that you'd like at him. I just wanted to open that up for you guys and say it doesn't have to stay on topic for biohacking, anti-aging, or longevity. You can direct those questions to me, and you can direct any other question you want to Damon John. So I'm super excited, guys. This has been, I think, my favorite challenge. A lot of you have been with me on a lot of these challenges. We've done 10,000 step challenge. We've done the cold plunge challenges. We've done breathwork challenges. We've done 3-day water fast. We've done all kinds of challenges, but for some reason, this has been like the most inspiring one to me. Seeing you guys, some of you on the West Coast get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, cold plunging before you even wake your kids up in the morning, seeing a lot of first time families, entire families, moms, dads, and the kids all getting in the cold plunge together. It's just so amazing. I mean, when the message gets out and it really starts to touch lives and people have fun with it and they bring their families into it, that's really just chicken soup for my soul. So I really want to thank you guys for having the trust and confidence in me to give me your time, and then for just being so participatory in this. But people have gotten really creative with cold plunges, everything from going out and buying beer tubs to cattle troughs, to using your own bathtubs, to obviously cold showers. You do not have to purchase one of our pop-up cold plunges or an expensive cold plunge. You can just get some ice, put it in a Tupperware container, put it in your tub, and let it rip. The idea is to inspire you to make that transition and start incorporating this in your daily lives. And then to hear some of the stories that are coming back from people that have been doing this for a while, that have been following me, and how they're using it to conquer addiction, depression, balance hormones, making it a part of their daily routine for weight loss, to getting off of SSRIs and all kinds of mental challenges and really shift their mood. I just think it's amazing, guys. I always tell people, if you're ever at a crossroad in your life where you're just kind of lost, meaning you don't know what direction your career is going. Maybe you don't know what direction your relationship is going. Maybe you haven't found that passion or that purpose. It's a great time for you to just turn inward, meaning turn inward on yourself. Be a little bit selfish. Start putting yourself first. Engage in some self-care. Go on that journey to find out how you can be the best version of yourself. And by that, I mean, start exploring things like cold plunging and breath work and natural sunlight in the morning. Make that shift to a whole food diet. Don't worry about if you're keto, carnivore, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. Just say, I'm going to get processed foods out of my life, and I'm just going to start to eat whole foods. And then maybe make that extra step to the grass-fed meats and the pasture-raised eggs and the free-range chickens, and that extra step towards glyphosate-free choices and pesticide and herbicide-free choices, and make that choice for organic. Start an exercise routine. Maybe start journaling. And you'll find that when you turn inward on yourself, and you actually start to like yourself and like the body that you're in, and your thought pattern starts to change, and the frequency that you're sending through your body changes, all of a sudden the rest of life reveals itself to you. And my father's a Captain John Brecka. He's a salty old naval captain. By the grace of God, both of my parents are still with me and doing very well. But my dad was, or is, very simple creature, right? He always spoke in military time. He was always so reliable. He was so dependable. He's a captain in the Navy. Gave 30 years of his life to service. But he had one of the best definitions of life. Very simple guy, but he had one of the best definitions of life I've ever heard. And he used to say, life is what happens to you when you're on your way to doing something else. And I think it's one of the coolest descriptions of life. It's so true. Sometimes we actually don't know what the future holds. And during those times is a time where we actually lose touch with ourselves. And, no matter what we're struggling with, if we turn inward on ourselves and we really engage in some self-care, and we do some of the things like we do on these challenges, maybe make it the first time that you try a 3-day water fast. Maybe make it the first time you try a cold plunge. Maybe say, I'm going to commit 30 days to waking up with the sun and just exposing my skin to sunlight, touching the earth, and doing some breath work. Incorporating those things that cost you nothing but could really change the trajectory of your life. And then life begins to be what happens to you when you're on your way to doing something else. Also, thank you guys for all of the referrals and the kind words. Thank you guys for posting and being vulnerable about this. I see so many of you guys getting in cold plunges. You've been tagging me. You've been reposting. I mean, this has just been the best of all worlds for me in terms of the challenges that we've done so far. Next month, I've got a really, really cool challenge coming. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for my next challenge for September. But this one's been super inspiring for me. So I'd like to get to a couple of questions, if we could, before, let me see what we got in the chat, before we go over to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. Little man becoming ultimate human already. Oh my gosh, who's that? Joe Messina? Joe, how old is that little man? We may have the youngest cold plunger ever. So Keith writes, Gary, doing my first cold plunge on day 1 was amazing. After the plunge, I had one of the worst days and my mood was better due to the plunge. I just wish I had a better way of plunging, but what a feeling. Thanks for helping me get involved and doing this. Keith, you're super welcome. If you guys have any questions for me, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. He's 4. I was so excited to try it. Dude, you can start cold plunging at 4. He's going to be a man by the time he's in high school. I'd love to see. It's very safe for little kids. Again, we want to keep the water 48 to 55 degrees, especially for children. But it's very safe for them. In fact, I see moms getting in there and dads getting in there and they're like shocked and freezing and like super animated. And the kids just get in the cold plunge and are like, what? What's all the fuss about, Mom? They're just standing up to their chest in ice cold water and not batting an eyelash. So that's super awesome, man. And I know when you do it as a family, it just becomes like the talk of the table. So let's fire up a couple of questions. I'm so inspired by this audience. Carrie Gosling says, what effect do cold plunges have on concussion and whiplash recovery. Day one plunge, I had a headache going in, did the plunge, and it was gone for the day. So basically what you're actually getting is a vasodilation, vasoconstrictive effect. Remember that the arteries in our body are smooth muscle, right? We have skeletal muscle, which is our biceps and our skeletal muscle. We have smooth muscle, which is our arteries, and then we have cardiac muscle. Those are the three types of muscle in the body. And the smooth muscle that we have in our arteries is actually layered. They're at different angles. And the reason why it's not a band of muscle, but actually muscles, they're usually three layers. The muscles in the arteries are layered, and they run, the fibers run at different angles, is so that it can create this peristaltic wave. And this peristaltic wave, as we get into the smaller and smaller capillaries of our bodies, is called vasomotor. It's called vasomotor activity. You hear me talk about this all the time. 70%, check this out, Google it and check it yourself. 70% of our circulation is not done by the heart. 70% of our circulation is vasomotor. It's like a snake swallowing a mouse, which means that the heart beats, you get a bolus of blood into the artery, and then that smooth muscle vasomotor activity continues the circulation of that blood, especially in our capillary systems, liver, lungs, pancreas, kidneys, our brain, behind our eye, the arteries that supply, and the capillaries that supply our retina, our rods, our cones, our macula, that actually feed the back of our eye. All those little muscles in our eye that move, not just the orbicularis oris, but all the ocular muscles that actually control the fine motor activity in your eye. Those all have small capillary circulation. Two of the things that are great for that, cold plunging is excellent for that. Red light therapy is excellent for that. Sunlight is excellent for that, especially in the morning when you don't have the UVA and UVB rays that are damaging your skin. So what's awesome about vasomotor activity is that as we age, it becomes the most compromised portion of our circulatory system, right? It's not the heart's inability to push blood into the arteries or return blood to the heart in the veins. It's the vasomotor activity. So anything that we can do to exercise our vascular system is going to improve vasomotor activity. So there is some research that cold plunging can improve vasomotor activity, which means better circulation. So in your case, this means a reduction in inflammation, actually being able to deliver oxygen to areas that might not otherwise be getting oxygen, getting inflammatory factors out, cytokines, histamines, prostaglandin E2s, bradykinin, all of these inflammatory factors. And when you exercise, getting things out of the muscle like creatinine that cause delayed onset muscle soreness. So I'm not surprised at all to see that your headaches and some of your neck pain, was resolved, but it's a great testimonial. Dr. Lyon is on, and we will be spotlighting her to get this conversation started. Woo, Dr. Lyon. I think you're muted.
I'm unmuting myself right now.
I think you're still muted.
Am I? I've unmuted.
Okay, you've unmuted. We got you. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, this is a really inspiring group. We've had thousands of people on this challenge. Damon John just walked into my unit, so he's our guest. I'm putting a shark in the shark tank today, a nice chili tank. So it's such a blessing to have you on. I've spoken about you and your book and all the work that you do, and it's really inspiring to have you with us. This has been the most inspiring challenge that I've done. I've done cold plunge challenges, 10,000 steps. We've done water fasting. We've done breathwork challenges. But in terms of like participation and breakthroughs and testimonials, this has been by far the most game-changing challenge that I've ever hosted. So thank you so much for joining us.
That's incredible. Why this one? Why do you think it's been this one?
I think because I think because it's just such a major transition and a breakthrough for so many people. I think a lot of people sort of have heard about cold plunging. They don't like cold water. They didn't think that they could do it. And they actually got through it and got to the other side and got to feel that sense of euphoria, that elevated endorphin rush, the dopamine, that peripheral vasoconstriction, the blood returning, just that incredible feeling that in some cases people have been saying they haven't felt this good in 10 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so moms started dragging their kids in and dads started dragging their wives and their sons in. We just had a 4-year-old in the cold plunge. So it's been really inspiring, but we've gotten a lot of questions from women about the safety of cold plunging during their menstrual cycle, if there's a better or worse time during the month based on their cycle to cold plunge, if there's any interruption in hormones. So I just thought we'd get the expert on and have you speak to our female audience a little bit.
Well,
And
first of all, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that you all have just loved the experience of cold plunging. It's something that I do. I started with 11 minutes a week. And I now am up to, I probably go
straight
in.
down the research right there, 11 minutes. That's
So I actually,
exactly to the minute where the research is.
yes, as you guys know, I am very evidence-based. I will tell you when it's evidence and I'll tell you when it's my opinion. I started with 11 minutes, which is absolutely where the research is. I now go higher. My husband, this is really funny. My husband he's a former Navy SEAL, and they have Winter Hell Week. And Winter Hell Week, and not everybody is in Winter Hell Week, but it's essentially cold water immersion for 4 days. And I bet that individuals could do it certainly longer. I'm just curious, Gary, what is the longest stretch that you have done over a week?
You mean consistently cold plunging?
Yes, yes. Have you calculated your time?
Wow,
Half
I don't think I've
hour?
calculated my total
Yeah.
time in the tub, but I mean, I do 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum, and I've done 3 to 6 minutes, 7 days in a row. So probably 42 minutes is the most I've spent in a cold plunge in an entire week.
It that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And for women, do you know that, and I'm certainly not saying I recommend this, but in other cultures, they cold plunge even while pregnant. And it has been thought to actually help symptoms of hyperemesis gravidum, which is the nausea. It's thought to actually help with pregnancy. And we don't know the mechanism of action. Certainly, there isn't research done by that, but there are certain cultures that continue to do that. And your original question was, is there a certain time of the cycle? And I would say I haven't seen any evidence of that, but I personally believe that cold plunging makes everything better,
Mm.
regardless. Also, women, I have many patients that are in their perimenopause, postmenopause phase, and it actually helps with hot flashes for them.
Wow. Hard to
It
have a
seems
hot flash when you're in 50-degree water.
this is true. The other thing that I have seen is when you emerge and or you go up, there's a lot of women that really struggle with thyroid conditions, whether it's Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. I think that there will be more emerging evidence, its impact on thyroid health from a positive standpoint. And
Mhm.
that is extraordinary. It is something that, again, I know that you mentioned vasoconstriction. There's this shivering aspect, and
Mhm.
that's a good thing. This increases metabolic heat production. There is a belief that it can improve and activate brown adipose tissue, which is the fat that you have as a baby. A
Mhm.
whole host of things that can be extremely beneficial. And they also believe that those that are cold adverse are probably individuals that will even have more of an impact. So if you disliked this initially, but still continue to do it, you are probably someone that has even a increased benefit, which I thought is
Wow, I didn't know
very,
that.
yeah.
That's so good.
Um,
My history with intermittent fasting, we just crossed the 150,000 patient mark in our clinic system nationwide. So we've gathered a lot of data on a lot of different protocols. And one of the things we knew about intermittent fasting was that young menstruating women that have very, very narrow feeding windows can very often disrupt their menstrual cycle. And we've just seen that. I'm not sure of the mechanism of action there either. I'm sure it has something to do with thyroid regulation,
yes,
and
yeah.
hormone regulation with related to their insulin levels and their blood sugar levels. But we did notice that women that were on very restrictive, some of them 2 hour or 4 hour feeding windows, it would actually send their endocrine system into a tailspin. So I hadn't seen any evidence with cold plunging. So thank you for clearing the air on that. So why don't we open up a couple of questions for Dr. Lyon? Okay.
And I
Jill
love hearing you
Saxton
say that.
says, should
Yeah.
women plunge at a different temperature than men?
That is a wonderful question. And I haven't seen any evidence that women should plunge at a different temperature. And one has to understand whether you are male or female, there will be an acclimation period. I personally plunge around 53 degrees, and that might be a little warm for some of you. And it is just a matter of ultimately going through that dysregulation. For example, I'm sure that Gary spoke about the increase in norepinephrine and some of these catecholamines. Your body will acclimate to certain temperatures and it will become easier, and you'll have less of this cold shock, which I'm sure you guys have been experiencing. There is a component of lowering the temperature that will increase that experience over time. Get really comfortable with it, go through a period of time where you get comfortable with it. You can, again, I went warmer. It doesn't mean all women have to go warmer, but there's certainly less of a stress if you go warmer. So if you were to stack stressors, for example, what Gary's saying about intermittent fasting for women is absolutely true. We see that. We see a change in hormones, not necessarily for the positive, especially over long periods of fasting. We see a decrease in thyroid hormone. If you were
Yes.
to increase the stressor, now you're adding fasting and cold exposure. You're now pushing kind of levels of stress. So let's say you are experiencing, and again, this is perfect, this is purely anecdotal. You are experiencing a tremendous amount of stress in your life and you're doing things that are influencing your body in that way, then maybe you want to go a little bit warmer. If you are someone who started this challenge and are like, you know what, I need a full reset. I know my diet isn't where I want it to be. I know my training is not where I want it to be. Then maybe you go a little bit colder.
Okay, great. So Don DeSacio, I hope I said that right. Please talk about the timing of cold plunge. Does it have to be done first thing in the morning, or can I do it midday?
It doesn't have to be done first thing in the morning. I would say I don't like individuals to do it around their training session. I prefer that individuals, there's a space 4 hours or so before sleep actually can have a positive impact on sleep. Again, it really depends on how your body regulates. When I cold plunge, I'm as Gary knows, a very tiny person. I'm 5'1".
She is a tiny person.
I'm maybe 110
There's
pounds.
3-inch boots, though.
That's right. So for me, I try to do it around 6 or 7 p.m. That's about 4 hours before I go to sleep. But it can be done anytime. You will know when you are first starting, and I'm sure you guys experienced this, how many people did it actually make more tired? Initially, did you get more
There were some
tired,
people.
right?
Yeah,
Because
there's some hands going up there.
so you get more tired because you have this big dump of adrenaline. And then you'll find that some people are a lot hungrier, or some people have no appetite. Some people experience it as if it was almost a workout. And that's how I was initially. So I initially started doing it earlier on in the day, just wanted to get the pain out of the way. I was exhausted. I couldn't do it. You will find a way in which you can function. I have other patients that are bigger males, they all do it earlier. Again, I know you guys are plunging. I got a message from your team. They're like, are you plunging after this? I'm like, no, I can't plunge right now. I got to work. I got a work day. I
How
can't
dare
plunge.
you call in the cold plunge challenge and not plunge?
I didn't know that was a prerequisite, but I will later. Yeah, so to wrap that up, typically you want to do it, again, for me, 4 hours before bed is great, not really around training.
Yeah. So Laura Corsi said, should you avoid taking a warm shower after the cold plunge rather than letting your body reacclimate normally?
That is a wonderful question. I don't know that answer. There are many people that do hot and cold. Gary is one of them. And it seems to, it's interesting because if you look at cold exposure and heat exposure, they do various things like that brown adipose tissue. They work differently. One vasodilates, one vasoconstricts, but they work on, they're both hormetic agents. And many cultures do them back to back. And there is some benefit to that. Could
Yeah.
you
And
do a warm shower to warm up? Yes. Is it going to have the same impact as what Gary does in his sauna? Probably not.
yeah, so I like the contrast therapy, but my preference is that you let your body warm up naturally. Let it do what it does in its natural state, right? So my preference is that you always end on cold. So if you do contrast therapy, just end on cold. You can make the contrast therapy shorter, meaning you can make the amount of time you spend in the cold plunge shorter each time you do one of these rounds, so you don't overstress the body. Again, this is one of those things that I think Dr. Lyon would agree on, where more is not necessarily better. There's not a lot of evidence that I have seen anywhere in the literature that colder is better or longer is better. I think we just sort of create these sort of man contest of how cold can I go or how long can I go, and we're not actually doing any more benefit for ourselves. But anytime that we can actually get behind the normal response of the body, I like that, to allow it to do physiologically what it was designed to do. So you expose it to cold and then allow it to warm up and go back into homeostasis by itself. And she used that term hormetic or hormesis. That's the process where, we put a stress on the body and it actually strengthens in response. Hormetic stresses are not bad for the body. Not all stress is bad for the
We
body.
need them,
Loading the
right? We
bones
need
causes
them.
them to strengthen. Tearing the muscle causes it to grow. Challenging the immune system causes it to become stronger. And so this is just one of those stresses we can apply to the body that should improve but you have a physiological positive response after a stress. All right. So, oh, wow. Hi, my 90-year-old mom was very active up until about 2 years ago when she got a very bad case of osteoarthritis of the knees. How do I keep her muscle tone? Oh, this is right up her alley. How do I keep up her muscle tone, and how do I help her cold plunge if she can't get into a tub?
There are also, that's a great question. The cold plunge would be wonderful for arthritis, especially if it's her knees. This is, while the evidence suggests that an individual should fully be immersed up to their shoulders, the neck to hit the vagus nerve for full body systemic effect, there is benefit for her to just get her knees and legs in. She's 90. We don't want her to fall. And also getting her acclimated would be wonderful, as opposed to just doing an immersion right away. Again, I'm certainly not her doctor, but if that were my mom, what I would do is I would arrange a safe like tool, or a way to get in, whether it's a stool or something to get her knees in. The
Mhm.
other thing is, for osteoarthritis, that's very important. An individual will do extremely well if her nutrition is intact, which we know. I'm sure Gary talks about that a lot. And also for muscle strength, protein is going to be extremely important for her. At 90, you're going to be eating less food. As individuals age, their appetite decreases. The quality of the food is going to be critical to maintain her muscle mass. And also, the evidence suggests that she could literally do stretching. I worked on some of these early studies, and the women were in their 50s. We were able to do body recomposition just by managing their diet, 5 days a week of walking, and 2 days a week of resistance training just by using their body. If she can walk, she can strengthen her muscles, she can do isometric movements, really, really critical, and making sure that she is doing full ranges of motion so that the arthritis doesn't get worse. And of course, managing her weight. But cold plunge would be wonderful for her too.
Yeah. I find that if they're able to just sit down on the edge of a tub and kind of, raise their legs over and get them into the tub, raise the, other leg over and get them into the tub. You can put the calves all the way down up to the knees in cold water, even if you can't get the knees submerged. There's an area, it's called the popliteal fossa, and there's a lot of other blood flow that's actually all that cool blood returning from the calves is going to go by the knees on its way up to the thighs. So, whether or not you can actually get her thighs and her knees and her whole waist submerged, I would focus on just some progression rather than perfectly submerging those. It might be a lot for her to put her entire body into cold water.
Totally.
But if you could just get the water up to the back of her thighs and to the base of her knees, she's still going to get that vasoconstriction effect right there. So Joe Messina, is it safe for someone with Wolff Parkinson's White, an extra electrical pathway in the heart to cold plunge?
That is a wonderful question. What I would do is I would run that by the cardiologist, and they might not even know. What I'm guessing their suggestion would be. So Wolff Parkinson's White is an abnormal EKG rhythm. It's an abnormal heart rhythm. That is probably one of the biggest things that we're always concerned about, is the electrical rhythm of the heart. Now, here is what I am guessing your cardiologist would say. The cardiologist would be to do a slow immersion, and they probably will say to start warmer. That is what I am guessing.
Yeah, and maybe even start with cool showers before you go to full immersion. What was the next question, Amelia? So Damian Little, yesterday you talked about not cold plunging right after the gym, but how long after the gym is it okay to cold plunge?
Typically, the data suggests at least 2 hours. You want to give yourself at least a 2 hour.
Yeah, because I know that we talked about it yesterday. We don't want to shut down the natural physiologic response of the body. If you go and do a heavy squat workout like we talked about yesterday, and you do a bunch of damage to your quad muscles, what's the body going to do? It's going to increase the blood flow to that area. It's going to increase the amount of oxygen it's delivering to that muscle. It's going to bring more amino acids to repair those muscles. It's going to pull creatinine and other byproducts out of that area. So we don't want to shut that down. I love all the little biohacks that enhance the body's natural physiologic response to things. Just natural sunlight, natural grounding, breath work, cold plunging, these hormetic stresses that you would possibly encounter in the course of daily activity. If you were out hunting and gathering, or you're walking in the woods, or any number of things, those are great hormetic stresses. Janet Colvin says, I initially feel amazing after I plunge, but shortly after I begin to feel some anxiety. Water in the tub is 60 degrees because of Louisiana weather at this time. So she said she initially feels amazing, but afterwards she actually feels a little bit of anxiety.
My guess, and this is what I would do if I were you, is I would throw a continuous glucose monitor on. I'm wondering if you're actually dropping your blood sugar because you're experiencing a adrenaline cortisol spike. Sometimes you will see that blood sugar post might be a little bit lower. And that's what I would check. So here is what I would say. Eat something or drink something, keep your carbohydrates within range, but I see if that makes it a little bit better.
So yeah, by the way, people said, can I eat before getting into cold plunge? Yes. I don't think there's any reason to not, if you've just eaten and you're cold plunging, I see no reason to space your food out, based on your cold plunging.
And I will also say, I will not to interrupt you, Gary. And I've experienced this, is that I think that it can affect appetite. So if you are finding that you are having a craving or you want something, and let's say you're wanting to take care of your diet, but you're struggling, you get in that cold plunge, you're not going to want whatever it is that you think that you want.
That is so true.
You will not want it. So for example, if you know that there's cake around because someone had a birthday and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go do that, but I'm going to cold plunge first, guarantee you don't want it.
Yeah, all you want is a towel, not a slice of cake.
Terrible. That and blood flow restriction. Yes.
Hey, Sarah Campbell asks, how does cold plunging balance hormone levels? I have an extremely high SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Will plunging lower this? I'll also give my input on that, but
sex hormone, yeah. So sex hormone binding globulin is a little bit of an annoyance for people. When that goes high, typically women that have been on birth control, sex hormone binding globulin goes up and stays up. It is very difficult to lower sex hormone binding globulin, at least clinically for me. One of the things with that, and I'm sure Gary will be able to weigh in on this, yes, you can try to work on body composition and insulin resistance and sleep and whether you add boron or any of these other things. But if it is high because of birth control, I have seen it very difficult to lower. And the one thing that I would say is you need your hormones higher so that your body can see the free hormones, like, for example, testosterone and other things. Will cold plunging lower sex hormone binding globulin? Possibly, if it is related to inflammation, if it's related to body composition, possibly. But if it is elevated because of birth control, clinically, I've seen that you have to do other things like hormone replacement to really
Supplement
optimize.
that. You mentioned boron. We found boron to be a very effective way to lower SHBG. Birth control purposely drives SHBG up. Some of the birth controls are purposely designed to use SHBG to interrupt the menstrual cycle. But you see this high in men and women. And sex hormone binding globulin. Globulin is a protein. It's a protein that binds to sex hormones, just like its name sounds. In men, it has a special effect on the conversion of testosterone into free testosterone. So you'll see, very often high levels of testosterone and very low levels of free testosterone in men and women with high SHBG. But we found boron to be a very, very effective way to lower SHBG, and you just take it as directed. Pure encapsulations makes a good one. Thorn makes a good one. Symbiotica makes a great one, but it's called boron. It's a mineral. We found it to be pretty effective. Jenny, what about meds and supplements? Should they be taken after plunging? It's actually a good question.
What I would say with meds and supplements, medications, depending on, let's say you're taking something for blood pressure and you take it at the same time because of the circadian effect. So this is kind of like chronomedicine. They'll say, if you take, for example, your blood pressure medication in the morning, maybe it is more effective because of X, Y, and Z. But overall, just being on a regular cadence is most important. If you take thyroid medication, then you always take your thyroid medication at the same time on an empty stomach fasted. The physiological hormetic effect of cold plunging should not change the digestibility of the medication or supplement.
That's a great response. I'm going to get to the next question, but I wanted to give Dr. Lyon a minute to talk about her book, because I found this very impactful. I mean, some of you know who Dr. Lyon is, some of you don't, but for those that don't, I didn't really do a proper introduction for her. I'd like her to just spend a minute talking about her book. It's a culmination of her life's work. She is an MD, by the way. And you may have seen her on other podcasts, or even seen her on my podcast or one of the podcast shorts that I've done. She's actually become a great friend. Tell us a little bit about your book and your work, and especially its focus on women's health.
Yes. And actually, by the way, I have two more books coming out, and one is Forever. I know, Forever Strong for Women. So this is my first book, and this book is called Forever Strong. And it's a new evidence-based approach to overall health and wellness. And at the end of the day, everybody believes that we have an obesity epidemic, and that's really the problem. But the work that I've done, I trained 7 years in nutritional sciences. I've been mentored by one of the world leading protein experts, and I'm a trained geriatrician, board certified in family medicine, fellowship trained at Washington University in St. Louis. And I did a clinical research fellowship and a geriatric fellowship. What I realized is that we don't have an obesity problem. We are not over fat. Fat is a symptom in part of unhealthy skeletal muscle. And these diseases of aging all are related: insulin resistance, fertility problems with PCOS, you name it, Alzheimer's, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. Yes, there are genetic components, but these are diseases in part of skeletal muscle first that manifests later. But the primary site and the primary organ system that we have to address is skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is the organ of longevity, and it defines and determines everything about how we live and how we age. And my book it's for anyone that is interested in reading. It is not technical. It is accessible. talks about how to work out, how to eat, how to learn and think about these things. And it provides a counterbalance to all of the things that you hear in the media world of, how protein is bad for you, all of this stuff, which is all nonsense.
Yeah.
And
And, I might add that, it blows through some of the myths that it's, there's a point of no return on building muscle, or that it can be too late in life to actually fight something called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting. It actually gives a real evidence-based discussion on the impact. She called muscle the organ of longevity. And I think very few people think about muscle as an organ. The skin is the largest organ in the body. We know the liver, the lungs, the pancreas, the kidneys are organs. We don't think about muscle as an organ. And it's kind of like the forgotten secret
yeah,
to longevity. And there are all of these astounding statistics and evidence that really link our skeletal muscle to longevity. Things like grip strength, balance, are all related to our skeletal muscle. And she really does an excellent job of laying out the evidence and then giving you really practical steps that you can do at any age. I mean, there's several people on here right now that are in their 70s. Some folks on the challenge right now are in their 70s, are doing their cold plunge for the first time. It's important for them to know that if you've lost a lot of skeletal muscle because of sarcopenia, age-related muscle wasting, you can gain it back.
yes, yes. And I'm going to give you a few statistics. If you are in the lower 1/3 of strength, you have a 57% greater chance of dying from anything,
All-cause mortality.
all-cause mortality. If you are in the lower 50% of muscle mass, it's the same thing. Muscle mass and strength. I wish, I was thinking about what you did, Gary, when you were looking at lifespan. I wish that there was a way that we could look at muscle span, which is the length of time that we live with healthy skeletal muscle, because it's not about lifespan. It's not about health span. It really is about muscle span.
Mm-hmm. And muscle is our metabolic currency. It's a sponge for glucose. It fights insulin resistance. I mean, it does so many things. It produces hormones.
Yes.
And it does so many things that it's been fascinating, my journey. Even I went to 8 years of undergraduate for biology and graduate school for human biology. We didn't learn any of this, and I was actually getting a human biology degree, and in a naturopathic institute. And so I was really kind of fascinated on my journey. Her book does just an excellent job of explaining it. She also has a podcast. She's been on a bunch of podcasts.
I was just on Andrew Huberman's, our friend
Oh, you were
Andrew.
just on Huberman? Has it come out yet?
It's actually tracking up as one of the most successful episodes that he's done, which is
Okay, I'm definitely going to watch it.
it just
I
means
know
that
that you
people
and Andrew have been friends for a long time. All right, so we got a couple more minutes left. Do you have 5 more minutes for us?
Of course, of course.
Okay, so Tracy Shepard says, if willing, is a cold plunge good for someone with early onset dementia? Ooh, that is a great question.
Yes. Early onset dementia is very challenging. So there are two things that I would say for this person. You have to be exercising. I actually just published a review on with a few colleagues of mine. We just published a review and we spoke about, which I'll send it to you, Gary, so you can link it to your group, on exercise impact, specifically resistance training on Alzheimer's. Yes, you don't regrow brain matter, but you strengthen the connections that you have. And so if someone wants to slow down the progression, someone should be doing resistance training. Cold plunging, I don't know if they've ever looked at cold plunge and memory and connection. But again, when you're lowering, Alzheimer's disease is type 3 diabetes of the brain. It is a metabolic dysregulation of the brain. We know cold plunge is good for skeletal muscle. We know that skeletal muscle is so important. It's the primary site for insulin resistance. And when you get type 2 diabetes, think about how you are not efficient at using the sugars and the glucose that you eat. your brain is also getting type 3 diabetes of the brain. That will amplify any kind of dementia. So, should you be cold plunging? You certainly can. Should you be doing resistance training? You must. And you must get your diet together to make sure you are not progressing Alzheimer's, because there's no cure for it.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about type 3 diabetes yesterday. It's essentially insulin resistance in the brain.
That's right.
We know that the brain is crack addicted to carbohydrate, and what the brain wants, the brain gets. I always tell you guys. I mean, the brain's nasty. It's like the little Kim Jong Un of dictators. It sits up there and it just takes everything for itself. And so when it doesn't, when it gets too much glucose and doesn't have a place to store it, you start this process of neurofibrillary tangles and amyloid plaquing and all of these other things that we think is the cause of Alzheimer's. But now the research is really indicating that those are the byproducts of the progression of the disease. They're not the cause of the disease. So Alzheimer's is not caused by amyloid plaques. Amyloid plaques happen in people that are already on their way to having Alzheimer's. Remember, circulation is the key. If we can get blood flow to the brain, we can improve short-term recall. Anytime you get hypoxic in the brain, you are reducing your short-term memory and your recall. So I completely agree with what Dr. Lyon just said. All right, let's fire up a couple more. One last question, and then and then we're going to do one last question. I'm going to close out with Dr. Lyon, tell you how you can find her, and then we're gonna get the shark in the Shark Tank. So Dr. Lyon, I am perimenopausal, 42 years old, with high blood pressure and psoriasis, which is maintained with immunotherapy. I found my heaviness flow has lessened this week since plunging daily. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
amazing.
she said, do you believe this is because of the plunge? Have you heard of anything about plunging to lightening your menstrual flow?
I haven't. I have not. But I will say that maybe it was, again, when we think about these things, the way in which cold plunge can be acting on the body, there's just a multitude of ways, whether it is this hormesis effect, lowering inflammation, helping with insulin sensitivity, all of this stuff. So maybe you were having an abnormally heavy flow. Again, how and why it works, I'm not sure. But I will also say with psoriasis, we treat a ton of patients with psoriasis. And I'm sure Gary would agree, you have to go and dig into the gut. I've just seen it too many times. You have to check for pathogens. You have to check for H. pylori. And if you can figure out what is driving the immune system, then you can certainly lessen the psoriasis.
I
Yeah,
totally
and the
agree
high
with
blood
that.
pressure could be genetic or not, but exercise, cold plunging, all of these good lifestyle behaviors are just so impactful.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very often the liver uses the skin as a secondary route of waste elimination. So, when we have leaky gut and bloodborne pathogens get into, they get out of the gut and into the bloodstream. Very often we use the skin as an elimination route. And a lot of these skin conditions are just manifestations of problems in the gut or even problems with waste elimination in the liver, what we call glutathione synthase or transsulfuration, where those processes are interrupted, and now you're manifesting a skin condition, and you're trying to treat the skin for something that's actually happening internally. So I wholly agree with that. So Malia said we got one more question. Okay. Okay. Does cold plunging have a positive or negative effect on male or female fertility? Oh, that's a good one. I know that's a good one.
I haven't seen anything negative. I don't know if I've seen anything positive, but I would assume that it just really depends on why. For example, we know that when you exercise, that you can increase the quality of your sperm. You can increase the quality of the sperm. And when you think on the other side, the female side, insulin resistance can be an issue and generate issues with fertility. These are tools that can be used, like cold plunging, can help with insulin sensitivity.
Okay. You know, I mean, I know that getting in a hot tub, you know, can sometimes lower men's sperm count. But it's a great question about a cold plunge. I actually haven't seen any evidence either way, so I really don't know
I
how to
haven't
answer
either.
that. All right, let me sneak in one more. Malia's typing it up for me now. There seems to be a lot of them coming in. Okay.
Is Max there?
So Damian Little, my wife has rheumatoid arthritis. Can this potentially help her? Ooh, that's a great one.
Yes. Yes, it can.
No question.
And also, yes, so you combine that with exercise because of again, how Gary said that muscle releases hormones, they release myokines, and there is definitely an influence on rheumatoid arthritis for treatment with resistance training, with exercise, specifically because of that muscle effect. And yes, would I put someone in the cold plunge that has rheumatoid arthritis? Absolutely, I would.
Okay. All right. Well, great, guys. This is amazing. Dr. Lyon, how can my audience find out more about you? Where can they find you on Instagram? We know your book. I'm going to put a link to your book down there. I'll also put your Instagram, but where can they find out more about you?
You can go to my website, drgabriellelyon.com. I have a great podcast, The Dr. Gabrielle Lyon Show, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We have a great YouTube channel. You name it. We provide a ton of free content. If people sign up for the newsletter, we give away free recipes, all kinds of things. We are really trying to help make this information accessible. And
That's amazing.
We do take nutrition clients and clients, everything is remote. So if anyone is interested.
Super. Dr. Lyon, thank you so much. You're always so giving of your time. You've been a big supporter of mine. I'm a huge fan of yours as well. If you haven't checked out our podcast or our podcast short, check out the Ultimate Human podcast that I did with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I've read her book. I really think that you should too. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. I have a lot of requests to have a female plunge guest. I mean, guys, I got Dave and John, but they want a female plunge guest. So now I've invited my wife. She's going to plunge with me first, and then I'm going to plunge with Damon John. So you're going to get Sage, my wife. See, I mean, the females love you. They love my wife too, Dr. Lyon. So Sage and I are going to plunge first. We're going to take a short little break. I'm just going to get dressed. We're going to switch cameras over to the cold plunge. Sage and I are going to cold plunge together, and then right after we'll do it with the shark. We'll put the shark in the shark tank. Thank you so much. See you soon, Dr. Lyon. All right, guys, I'll see you in just a few minutes. And get ready to cold plunge. If you're getting near your cold plunge, let's fire up the cameras and get ready. Hey, guys. All right. There has been a giant karma reversal of my day here. So karma just bit me right in the rear end. So Damon is coming in, and of course I made one super cold, this one, and one regular cold, this one. But now that I'm going to do it with my wife,
I get the warm one.
She knows about the trick, so she's actually forcing me to get in the ice cold one.
That's what karma is.
All right, so there we go. So the whole thing just completely backfired on me. Yep. But all right, here we go. So we're going to put a little extra ice in. I actually shouldn't have to do this on mine, but there's pretty much solid ice in there. And then David had just been on time. You have to suffer.
He's like, you got to tell him like 30 minutes.
I think what happened was he saw my Instagram post and he slowed it down a little bit. He was like, oh, I'll get this guy. All right. So, guys, what we do is, so this is my wife, Sage, for those of you that don't know beautiful Sage. He asked for females to cold plunge with me, so she volunteered. And she's been, so a lot of women, that are smaller framed, don't have a lot of muscle. They say, well, I don't like to get into the cold water. She didn't like getting in the cold water first either.
I have a love-hate relationship with it still.
But she does it every day. And she loves it. By love-hate, she means she hates getting in, but she loves it, how she feels when she gets out. Yes. So we're going to do 3 minutes. We're going to do the same breathwork technique that I always do. 4 obnoxiously deep breaths. On the 4th breath, we're going to breathe in and hold, and we're going to step in and go all the way down to our next. It's a little slippery on the bottom, so watch out. And this is not super stable. And then normally she listens to affirmations. She has this affirmation tape that she plays for 4 minutes. And it's a great one. Maybe we could even post the link to that.
Oh, I'll post the link. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. It's 4 minutes and 7 seconds, so it's the perfect amount for me.
Okay. All right, you ready? Here we go. This is a real cold plunge.
This is so chilly.
Yeah. I am now in what's supposed to be Damon John's cold plunge. So again, you can leave your hands out if you have renounced or you have circulation problems. You can absolutely leave your hands out. You know, she and I both will sometimes focus on our breath. So why don't you show them the breath work that you do? Long, slow in.
I'm not good at the box breathing because I have OCD and and I overthink the box breathing.
Yeah, she does.
So,
she thinks that she doesn't do an exact specific 4 seconds. Like she's like, I don't know if I did 3.5 seconds across the top and then 4 seconds down and then 3 across the bottom. I messed it up. I'm like, just don't worry about it. Just breathe. So the easy one is to just take a big inhale, breathe out through a straw. Big inhale, breathe out through a straw. We're already coming up on 1.5 minutes. So those of you that are in the plunge with us right now, you should be over the shivers. So you pretty good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. So now it's just a matter of time. You know, it's another 1 minute and 30 seconds. I used to get a shiver response. Do you get that anymore?
No, now I just inch my way in. So the better my lower body feels, the higher I can go. So I can't do it all the way to the neck right away.
You did today.
No, not today. I
Oh.
still inched it down a little bit.
Oh, you didn't. You blew my whole technique.
I went to here and then I came down.
Well, that's not following the cold plunge challenge guidelines.
Sorry, I haven't been on the ball.
Okay. Leave it to my wife to just
Do
blow
wives
my.
ever listen to everything their husbands say? No.
It's terrible being married to a biohacker.
I'm in the cold plunge.
Okay.
It's called win a win.
We'll just leave it at that. Okay, guys, 36 seconds. So I am going to do a little dunk. Get that mammalian diaphragm flex. Sage is not. Even for my audience, there are thousands of people relying on you right now, babe.
Oh, come on, don't make me. My hair doesn't ever get warm.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to do a little dunk. Here we go.
Like the glasses out. He's braver than me. My hair would never dry. So it would take forever.
You like that part because I can't talk?
Yes,
I knew she would. Are we at 3 minutes?
we are.
Woo! We did it, guys.
Not bad.
All right, let's see how Damon does in this one. All right, amazing.
All right, hold my hand.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to give you a high five.
All right.
Great job, guys. So that was 3 minutes. Next, we're going to do it with Damon. So I guess I'm doing 6 minutes of cold plunging today.
You are, but that's what you want to do. 3 to 6 minutes. You can break it up.
So, like, what was the deciding factor that made you actually start cold plunging?
My back. I had back surgery like 7 years ago, and my back still hurts a lot, and it really, really helps the pain and gives me relief for a couple hours. So I try to do 3 minutes in the morning, and then if I've been on my feet all day, I'll even do a minute before I go to bed, a minute or two before I go to bed.
So do the sauna beforehand.
Yeah, and I warm up in the sauna if I can, or out in the sun beforehand, and then jump in.
And it makes a considerable difference. You know, she actually had an L5S1 fusion when we first started dating 10 years ago. She had a car accident in Colorado and had dislodged her the disc in her spine, and it degenerated to the point where they actually had to put a spacer in. So I know there's a lot of people that suffer from back pain that have had back surgery or even had neck surgery. And I wanted you to hear from somebody that's actually had a benefit from getting into cold plunging. She doesn't take painkillers. We fixed her methylation, all of those things. We do a lot of things, sleep on a PEMF mat.
Yep.
She does red light therapy every day, but the cold plunging is the one thing I've got to say, of all the therapies that she's done, that transition between sauna and cold plunging is when she never complains about her back, and she gets the best sleep. And it's just, remember, you don't have to have a fancy sauna and a fancy cold plunge. You can do contrast therapy in the shower, just run the water as hot as you can stand it on your back, warm, your spine up, nicely, and then step out of that water, turn it as cold as it will go, and then get back in.
That's what I do when we travel, because we don't always have access. So.
Okay. Okay, so thank you guys for joining us the last 3 days for this cold plunge challenge. You are truly ultimate humans. I know you've gone above and beyond these last 3 days. If you're a rule breaker or upgrade to VIP, you're going to have access to the next hour with Damon John. So we're going to take a little break. I'm actually not going to dry off because I'm going to be getting back in the cold plunge with Damon. And I'm going to really ice this thing down because I want him to pay for being 15 minutes late to my cold plunge challenge. But I'll see the VIPs in 15 minutes. We'll be back online at 11:15. And for those of you that haven't become VIPs, now's the time to upgrade. If you don't get the value of upgrading to a VIP, I promise you at the end of the month, I'll refund your money. I just want to make it worthwhile to you. Any closing comments, babe?
You're doing awesome.
Oh,
I'm proud of him. I'm
Thank
proud
you
of you guys. This is awesome. And I love seeing all these people really getting the benefits and trying things for the first time, especially females. It's hard to get females to get on board, especially skinny females, because we're not necessarily looking to lose weight. But this has great benefit even if you're not looking to lose weight. There's a lot of great other benefits.
Awesome. See you guys back in 15 minutes. Hey guys, we're back live. There we go. We're back live. Guys, welcome Damon John to the challenge, to the VIP group. So we decided we're going to do the actual cold plunge together at the end. So one of us has already done a cold plunge, and one of us still needs to do a cold plunge.
Right.
So, guys, welcome to the VIP chat. I'm excited that you're back on here. This has been a great, my favorite challenge so far. We've done so many challenges. We've done breathwork challenges, 10,000 step challenges, water fasting challenges, but this cold plunge challenge has been my favorite and the most interactive. So, of course, Damon has become a very, very good friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He's a business icon, a guru. You've obviously probably seen him on Shark Tank.
I'm the black guy
He's the black guy
on the show, on the panel.
He's also the black guy on our VIP chat today. So try not to get us confused. Gary Brecka,
right.
Damon John.
That's right. All right, we've got that established.
So one of the things we do in the VIP group is this is the group that I get really intimate with, and they pay a monthly fee to be here. I try to really pour my heart into this group. They're the ones that defend me online when people attack me on Instagram. They're also the ones that help me recruit people to the challenges. They're great fans. They've had a great experience. Most of them share their personal journeys that they've had with me, live on these challenges.
Is every single all of these people fully they're all in tune with their bodies, or someone like, I need this because you know what? Everyday life, I'm going through it. I need a little more to just keep me going, or it's both?
A little bit of both, man.
Okay,
I mean, everyone is on this journey. They've bought into the idea that self-care, that they're biohackers. They're into the anti-aging and longevity movement. Most of them are taking Baja Gold sea salt, perfect aminos. They're drinking hydrogen water. They participate in all of my challenges.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of building a family and a community here. I see lots of these guys over and over and over again. So we're going to pull some of them up. My favorite thing to do is just allow them to ask any question that they want. Today we'll do a special thing. And listen, you don't have to keep your questions to biohacking, anti-aging, longevity, supplementation. We've got a business guru here, so let's take advantage of it. If you've got questions about your business, or you've got questions about starting a business, or you've got questions about a business idea, by all means, fire them over. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
Anything.
Fire them to him, and I'll sort of take on the the biohacking and anti-aging questions. So let's see who we've got on deck. Can you throw them up on there, Max?
Yeah, they're going to. Yeah.
Okay.
We have Naomi.
Oh, Naomi's going to throw them up?
All right, Naomi.
There we go, Naomi. There we go. So let's see. See the names usually.
They're muted right now.
Is that Kevin?
Hi, Gary.
Hey, how are
Hello,
you?
Can you hear me? Good. How are
I can
you?
hear you just fine.
Perfect. Hi, Damon. Huge fan.
What's up, Gav?
Thanks for having me on here. So I'm
Love the red
21
light,
years
by the
of
way.
age. Oh, thank you. Just woke up. Just got to throw it on. I had a question about anxiety. I was diagnosed with anxiety probably 3 years ago, and I got put on Zoloft for 2 years, and I actually recently, about 6 months ago, completely cold turkeyed that stuff. Kind of does not do very good. Not very good for the brain, but I just kind of had a question on. I know that what you say, it's not actual anxiety, it's a rise in catecholamines, but just kind of tips to help with that, especially at nighttime, trying to go to bed when your mind wakes up right when you lay down.
Yeah, so a couple things. Number one, I would really suggest trying that gene test and trying to quiet the catecholamines. You know, you have a very typical scenario that a lot of people have, and that's when you lay down to go to sleep at night and your mind is awake. And so you lay there awake, just ruminating on different thoughts. Very, very common in people that have anxiety because they have elevated catecholamines. Max, would you mind asking him to just take a pause? I got my chef in there making us lunch. He's just frying things up in there. It's loud. And so one of the things that I would suggest is extra magnesium at night. There's a great supplement called Magnesium Breakthrough. I would suggest taking the complex of B vitamins during the day. And don't forget methylfolate, 5-methylfolate, usually 800 to 1300 micrograms is the dosage that really helps people that have sensations of anxiousness and anxiety. So, you know, my first stop would be, and I'm not just trying to get you to buy a test, but my first stop would be to do that genetic test, find out what breaks you have, and then we can be highly targeted with the supplementation. Certainly is better than Zoloft. Zoloft and a lot of SSRIs create what's called tachyphylaxis, which is a desensitization response in the body. And so meaning that the longer you're on it, the more that you need, and the longer it takes to recover from getting off of those kinds of medications. So first stop would be to take that genetic test. And then secondly, I would be looking at complex of B vitamins, 5-methylfolate, and extra magnesium at night.
Awesome.
Can he
Thank
use
you so
that?
much.
You know, I know that he is smart enough to understand, or in tune enough to understand his anxiety. But I have a very similar way, and I know you, when you did mine, you said, hey, you have a DNA that you don't sleep as much and you're very hard on yourself. But is some of these other things I can use as well, even though I haven't indicated it as anxiety, because I don't have anxiety when I'm sleeping. I don't feel like it.
Right. So yes, you definitely can. You can definitely, you know, benefit from having extra magnesium at night. One of my favorite supplements is Magnesium Breakthrough, because it has all 7 types, all 7 forms of magnesium. I also like the Sleep Breakthrough at the same time, but I like what's called metabolites, right? Things that the body recognizes, it can process, and it can eliminate the waste, right? So things the body recognizes don't build a dependency. They don't create a reliance. You don't develop what's called a tachyphylactic response, which means a desensitization response. And you're not borrowing from your future. You know, a lot of times we're like, I just want to sleep. Right. And so, you know, I start taking tranquilizers. I start taking zolpidem nitrate, diazepam, whatever it is, Xanax. And the next thing you know, you can't get off of it. Right. Right. So my preference would be to try things that have the downside of not working, but can't harm you. Not things that have a downside of possibly not working, but could cause harm. And so I don't want to borrow from my future in order to just get a benefit today. I want to really fix the problem.
You need a Chauncey, something that doesn't work but can't harm you. One of my team members.
Yes. Dude, he is not giving you a break. Off camera is Chauncey, but
He's a bully though.
He's been hammering Chauncey.
Thank you, Kevin. I think that your question served a lot of people as well, even myself, because I think we all have that challenge now, especially with too in tune to these devices and various other things, and we're just up at night. Whether it's I don't even know what's keeping me up at night, but yeah, that's a good. Thank you. I appreciate that question.
Let's fire it up. All right. Master of the Universe. That's a great handle.
I've been looking for him all my life.
Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah. If I had the answers, yes. That goes back to my He-Man reference as a kid. So
that's great.
So my question kind of ties into what you were just talking about. So I'm on an SSRI right now. I've been able to cut the dose in half working with my doctor, but I really want to get off of it. Is there any evidence that shows that cold plunging, I mean, we know it increases dopamine, but does it increase serotonin levels, or do I need to do this, vitamin B complex and methylfolates and magnesium that you were just talking about?
Well, remember that serotonin is made in the gut, right? Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. We make the neurotransmitter serotonin from the amino acid tryptophan. Right. So you take tryptophan, and in the gut, we convert tryptophan into serotonin. Just like dopamine, the main driver of behavior, is made from phenylalanine and tyrosine. Right. These are other amino acids that we convert into neurotransmitters. Then these neurotransmitters that are actually made in the gut, 90% of which reside in your gut, travel up the vagus nerve. They enter the brain. They create mood, emotion. They drive behavior. And so it's very difficult to say that we have a separate mind from our body. And so, modern medicine treats them very separately, almost like we stop at the neck and then there's a whole new system from the neck up. And nothing could be further from
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense, for big pharma. But the issue in most of these conditions is neurotransmitter imbalance in the gut. So I would use a combination of both. The cold plunging definitely will raise endorphins and definitely raise dopamine levels. But the fixing the gut and using the B complexes, the methylfolates, the right form of B12 will actually help the process, the methylation process of converting tryptophan into serotonin, so you have adequate supply of that neurotransmitter.
Okay, and tryptophan is can be taken as a separate supplement, or is that?
Usually we have adequate levels of tryptophan. It's one of the essential amino acids. So if you're getting a good protein, if you're taking perfect aminos, if you're eating a balanced diet, or even if you're supplementing with whey protein powders or other forms of protein, you're generally getting enough tryptophan. It's usually not the tryptophan deficiency. It's the conversion of tryptophan into the neurotransmitter serotonin.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course, man.
Hey,
man.
How are you?
Sean?
Hey, I've got a business question.
Fire it up.
Maybe a unique opportunity here. So just a little history as to why on my thoughts on this. But so I went through quite a long bout of substance abuse, particularly alcohol. Went to treatment and started to get my life back together. About 3 years now. I'll be sober 3 years in October. But when I got out of treatment, something clicked in my brain to go back to school. So I went back to school to get my human services undergrad, and did a lot of my research during that time on wellness as well as mental health. And so through my journey, just graduated in May, as a matter of fact. So I did some internship from January to May in a treatment center that is very holistic here in Nashville. And one of the things that came out, and through my journey, I've also adapted wellness and nutrition. And Gary, a lot of things you mentioned, I've adopted and have found real benefit. But my business question is, when I was in my internship, we did a lot of the holistic. So we did cold plunge and some other things. And I asked a lot of the clients, like, what's the number one thing you gravitated to? How are you going to do that once you're discharged and you go home? Right? Because we offer in treatment, we offer all these things, which are great. And to go out and cold plunge, I know I've done some pricing around here. It could be $30 for 3 minutes. So how are these these folks are going to come out. So my question is in that there's a gap between what clients use in under treatment in these facilities to when they go home. And as I was talking to folks in the industry and recognize the gap is, so I guess my thought is what I'd like to do is I'd like to either nonprofit, business. I've got all these ideas, but I don't know how to put them all together. This may be a kind of a larger question, but my question is advice on how to bridge that gap. Create an organization that says when they're discharged, how can I help them continue their journey of health and wellness and maybe help enhance through suggestion and referencing, folks that I've learned from, Gary, like yourself and Dr. Huberman and others. But from a business perspective, just not even sure where to start. So I didn't know if maybe there's some bullet points that you have for me that might put me on a path.
That question for you or for me?
I think that's for you. You're the Shark Tank.
Yeah, Shark Tank.
So the question is, you have a new concept of when people are leaving treatment to be able to give them a service, correct?
Correct.
That continues that treatment in a very affordable way.
Correct.
Yeah. So the first thing is, where is the community? The community is where the treatment is, and what's in it for them to recommend you, because the concept of dealing with customers there's only three ways to deal with a customer. You acquire a new one, you upsell a current one, or you make one buy more frequently. And it's 22 times harder to acquire new customers. So now let's look at how to supersize everybody's fries in that facility. What's in it for the facility? Well, somebody could say money. Not necessarily, right? Because you want to make this extremely affordable so that people don't break the chain of what has happened. Well, credibility is even better, right? We have had X amount of patients come through this facility, and due to this outpatient program, it has increased their way to stay sober or not return. And if you come into our program, we have a higher rate of people that are cured and or move on and become way more successful in life due to not only our inpatient, but our outpatient. And it doesn't cost them any more money because you're servicing. So what they do is they then upsell the current customer. And when I say upsell, it doesn't mean it needs to be bad, right? You don't want in that facility the customers to be more frequent, because that means they're failing at their job and they're coming back. You want a success. So that's really probably the best way to do it. And then you have to look at your ways to actually execute on that, because product is king. You don't want to get the customer and then all of a sudden you don't execute. So I'm going to give you general answers, but that's probably the best way to do it. Everybody wins. You win, the patients win, as well as the facility wins.
Gotcha.
That
makes
really
sense.
good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I get impressed by you when you're here.
I feel like that was
You-
really good, man. I
Yeah.
feel like
Well,
that
I
was
think-
great advice.
I think important though, the insurance
I
company
just learned
wins.
for somebody else. I just repeat this shit trying to sound
Say it
smart.
again.
I said in some degree, insurance doesn't want to usually pick it up, but insurance wins because continuum of care, they don't go back into treatment. There's not, so, from I'll call it a marketing pitch,
Who also
maybe?
benefit off of this? The companies that sent them there would benefit off of it. Communities would benefit off of this. Other brands, called Plunge companies, may benefit off of this. Or there's a lot of different ways. There's not just one way to do things. There's always somebody who will benefit in any transaction. Somebody benefits.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your question, man. I hope you got some support from that,
And
brother.
thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being sober, and congratulations on that.
Hey there.
Hey guys, how are you?
Mike, how you doing, Mike?
I talked to you yesterday. I was going to tell you I turned my temperature down to 48 degrees instead of 52 today, and it made a big difference.
Yeah.
I was freezing once again, and I
You turned it
appreciate
down
you
to
having
48?
On his cold
I-
plunge.
And
I had
is
a,
48 the
I have a
temperature it should be at?
48 to 50.
Yeah, to 48.
55 is what
Okay,
I say.
because I'm at 52. You said 50 for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
yeah. So and I did 48, and then I play a little music I'll turn a song on and get through the song, and that gets me through the 6 minutes. But I had
A
a
lot of
question
people
for
do
you,
that. They'll
Damon.
pick a 3-minute or 5-minute or 4-minute song, or my wife listens to affirmations, and it's how long is it, sweetie? 4 minutes.
I
So
type.
she does
I
4
look
minutes.
at. I save an email that I want to go nuclear on. I save it for that time so that I'm in there like, you motherfucker. Let me tell you something, and then I just don't think about it no more, and I just hammer them.
Had a business
that I get, but that's great advice.
I was going to say, Damon, I had a business question for you. I was been an entrepreneur for years. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. In the last 3 years, we started our own business. The first year we made like 200,000. This year we're going to do closer to 500,000. Wanted to scale up. To one of my mentors is doing about 500 a month. What do you see the challenge between somebody who gets comfortable at having money when they never had money, scaling up further? And then the second part is, how do you not spoil your children when you're trying to give them things, but you don't want to rob them of the struggle and all that stuff? My kids are 19, 21, and 23. 2 are Division I football players, so they have that drive. But I just feel like I'm kind of giving them, it's not a problem to buy dinners and do stuff anymore where it was before. And how do you go from, how do I personally scale up financially? Because it's more of, I can do it. It's just a matter of bringing on the right team members. But secondary, how do you not spoil your kids and overgive them stuff?
Great question. Yeah, I'm gonna let you take that first, and then I'll.
2 are very difficult. The last one is the most difficult. If you give your kids everything, you make them the poorest person in the world. And that's the problem. But your kids are already 19 years old. I think they would probably know the difference of hardships and that. My kids were born with money, and it is challenging. I have really a great wife now. My ex-wife is also a great wife. I have to say that it's my partners who are the ones who keep them humble. I think the Division I sports is very, very good. You know why? Because I've met a lot of kids who have grown up with stuff, and they say when you're on that field, nobody gives a fuck about what you got. Actually, they're trying to stick it to you because you got something. So keep them in that. I know that also another thing to teach them as well is put them in jujitsu. That definitely humbles somebody. My children know, and I've said it from the beginning, that I will leave them zero. So what that does, and I have all girls, is that eliminates the men that will be in their life, or women, whatever the case is, who's going to feel like they'll eventually get a payday. And it also, they started to create the narrative at an early age that I'm not getting anything. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to go and create my own life. Those are the things that I have done for my children. What you want to go on the kids side first, and then
my kids were older before I started really being at the upper end of the success ladder, if that's what you want to call it. So they saw the struggle, which is interesting. I think kids learn more by observation than we think they do, and so the fact that you actually, it sounds like you started from relatively humble beginnings. So they saw it when dad couldn't provide fancy steak dinners and fun vacations, and now that you're in a position to do that, but they actually saw you climb that ladder. My kids watched my girlfriend, then fiance, now wife at the time, start a business in a strip mall. We took over a small vitamin shop. We did $79,000 our first year in business. We'll do 160 million this year, but they were along for that journey. Right? They saw us go from the strip mall to a really large functioning operating business. I personally have a little bit of a different philosophy in parenting. I think there's a difference between spoiling your children and investing in your children. So I invest in areas like education. So I took the responsibility to put my kids through undergrad and then also through nursing school. I'll invest in areas of their life that I think has a positive impact. My son's a semi-professional athlete. One of my sons. I support that habit. My daughter just graduated from nursing school. I supported that habit. My youngest is an artist, and I support his habit as an artist. And so I think that you can be strategic.
Oh, I support mine.
You support him.
I'm talking about when I'm dead. I'm not leaving them anything.
Oh,
no, I support them
who,
now.
who am I going to leave it to? Maybe I'll leave it to one of the rule breakers. But then you'd have to outlive me, and then I wouldn't be much of a coach, would I?
I mean, I do threaten them. I say to all of my girls, I say the last person that changes my diaper gets it all. But I'm lying. But I'm lying. You know what I mean? And
that's a great one too. I like that. But I think, listen, these are all high-class problems to have. First of all, congratulations on your business, scaling from 200 grand to $500,000. And it sounds like you're going to go next level. But I appreciate you being on here, man. Just make sure that you don't.
I'll just tell you the biggest thing for me is getting my health in order. I mean, I've had zero energy. I've been recovering from cancer treatments and all that. And now since I've started your program, I woke up 6 o'clock this morning, went to bed about 12:30 last night, and I was laying in bed saying, man, I need to sleep more. And I was like, wait, Gary says it doesn't matter. So just got up, started doing my thing, got my steps in, got in the cold, tub, and did my morning routine. So I don't have proof yet from my blood work, but I know life is changing because I literally, could not have done this. 3 months ago.
Well, you just answered how to scale your business, right? By being more healthy and more proficient and stuff like that. We won't be able to get to the business question at the moment, but
no, don't worry about it.
Having a happy family and productive children and your health is going to scale your business by far. Because I now have something more to live for. Because I have a beautiful little 8-year-old. I'm also a cancer survivor, and that's why I gave up the liquor and started working with Gary, and I got a hunger for life. So that's going to scale your business no matter what.
All right, we got about 15 minutes left, 20 minutes left before we plunge. So I'm going to try to get through a couple more questions. We'll go speed round here. Hi there. Tell me your first name. Is it Hamra? Can't see it.
Hi, it's Hannah, Henna.
Hannah. Nice to meet you.
How are you? Nice to meet you too. I've been on a couple of these challenges. First, I'm getting to speak with both of you. I have somewhat of a business question or a concerning question, I guess. I'm on the VIP group here with all of you, and I've been doing the plunges. I've been doing the water fasting, everything you can imagine. I'm also with the magnesium. I'm also with the biooptimizers team. I'm following quite a few people, I have cancer, but I haven't been able to get the genetic test results. It's been about 2 months, and my question actually is a business question. Should the VIP folks in the rule breakout group have a higher turnover on their results? Should there be a way to gain more acceleration in the process that we have when we're following you more actively? I have asked the people on the phone, but they're just people on the phone. They don't know. That's why I'm proposing to both of you from a business standpoint. But folks like us who are trying their best to accelerate the learnings that you're providing and several other folks are providing. But we're on standby. It's almost 2 months from me for the results. I did the first 5 methylation tests. Then I did the precision test, but I haven't found it. And to be honest, my stress is because my kids are severe anxiety children. I'm wondering what I passed on to them too. But that's the question from my end. How do we make it?
That's a great question. It's actually not one that I had entertained before, but yes, I mean, I think that my rule breakers and VIPs should have accelerated access to these things. If you would do me a favor and just send an email to my team, because they're live right now, info@theultimatehuman.com. Give them your first and last name and the names of your family members that did this test, and we'll see if we can get hand involved in that and kind of help accelerate things for you. Okay. Sounds great. All right. Hey, man.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for letting me speak. I really appreciate it. Just want to say that over the last 60 days, Gary, you've changed my life. You really have.
Thank you.
12 years ago, I had a heart attack. I have a stent. And a couple of months ago, I was diagnosed with myeloproliferative disorder. And so doctors telling me I can't be on TRT because it thickens my blood. I can't drink Celsius energy drinks. You know, I just no energy. I'm always tired. I'm always exhausted. And they just wanted me to take the chemo pill, which makes me even more tired.
Right.
And so, you know, I started researching and to learn about how to gain energy. And I fell down the Gary Brecka rabbit hole. You know, I'm drinking the water. I've literally I've bought almost every single protocol that you know, I get up in the morning, I do grounding in the grass, I do breath work with Wim Hof, I do plunging. I've been plunging for 60 days. I know this is a plunging thing here, but plunging has been the #1 game changer in my life. It's
so happy to hear
phenomenal.
that.
It's phenomenal. You know, beyond that, you know, I'm doing EWAT therapy. I'm doing red light 5 to 6 days a week. I'm doing everything I possibly can afford to do at a high level, trying to do the superhuman protocol without, you know, the only thing I can't afford to buy is the $150,000 bed, but I've got a salon that I can go to, and I'm getting that in. But as I go down this rabbit hole, I've done the methylation test. I got a call with one of your team members on Saturday for the blood work. You know, I've created a manual, an ultimate human manual with every single thing that you do.
Wow.
Nice.
Because
That is
I've been helping
incredible.
I've been helping employees and family members. I've got a lot of people jumping on the protocol, people that aren't sick, that I don't want to ever get sick.
Yes.
And so I researched and found about getting heavy metals out of your body. And this past Friday, I did a chelation test, and it made me terribly sick. It enlarged my prostate and made me very sick. What's your take on chelation?
So my personal take on chelation is that chelation is an emergency parachute, right? I mean, it's like the lever that you pull to punch through the canopy, right? And it's a last resort. So in other words, if you have severe heavy metal toxicity, and time is not on your side, you got to get those heavy metals out, then you can take the risk of chelation, because chelation is not metal specific, meaning that it doesn't just pull mercury and lead out, it will pull B12, it will pull magnesium, zinc, and basically what it'll do is it'll drain the body of really, really necessary resources. And it also can cause a detox reaction, meaning it dumps some of those into the blood, and you have a kind of reaction like what you had. My preference would be that you slowly detox over time. In other words, you know, every single one of us has the capacity to methylate heavy metals. You know, metals are very necessary in the human body. Vitamin B12 is a metal, zinc is a metal, magnesium is a metal, copper is a metal, and you couldn't survive a single day without these metals in your body. The ones that are dangerous are the ones that we methylate very slowly: mercury, lead, palladium, arsenic, the heavy metals. But we can still methylate these metals. So number one, you've got your methylation fix because you've already gotten the test and you're on the supplements. The second thing that I would do is I would add something called metal and chemical free cleanse by Body Health, Dr. Minkoff. Dr. Minkoff and I, if you haven't seen our podcast, did an amazing podcast on it. It is a sublingual. It has a binding affinity only for heavy metals. And so what happens is it slowly titrates the heavy metals out of your system. I've actually seen some of the lab work on patients that had heavy metals in the thyroid. Takes 6 to 10 months, but they go down to having no metals, and their thyroid antibodies calm down. People that have had heavy metals in their, you know, in their brain, specifically around the pituitary, they actually have, you know, they'll methylate those metals out over time. So my preference on metal detox is that we go slowly, not quickly, right? The sledgehammering the metals out of the system is a way to do it if you're at a toxicity or poison level, right? So then, you know, the downside is worth the risk. And so my preference would be that you use something like a metal and chemical free cleanse.
Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, real quick, you know, I do Wim Hof in grounding, but I also have a PEMF mat. And, you know, I live in New England. Is it necessarily to go out and do breath work and grounding if I can lay on the PEMF mat for 10 minutes and then get on my EWAT? Because I do have the Hypermax.
No, it's not necessary to do that if you can do your PMF and do the EWAT.
They kind of make up for those two
replaced
things.
by the PMF mat.
Got it. Thank you so much. You're the best.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on putting that book together. That's amazing.
I love these questions.
I do too. Yeah, we're gonna try to one or two last questions, and then we'll get
Yeah,
on
I
to
think
the-
my wife, oh, you probably have her on that, the metal stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've got
You do?
Heather. Mhm.
Heather's on that. And then the PMF, I've been looking for a mat to lay in the bed though. Can I do it? Because I don't have the time to go to the mat here. Is there something, a mat that I can lay in my bed with while I do my thing in
Yeah.
the morning and stuff? And
Yes, you
okay.
can put it right in your bed, and you can actually hit the button when you go to sleep at night, and it'll get both of you.
It will, and it will then cut off at a time, or it
30
stays on
minutes,
all
it'll
night?
shut right off.
Okay. Cool.
Automatically shut off.
Yeah.
Hi there. I think you might be muted. Okay, there you
There
are,
I am.
Jill.
Yeah, hi. I have more of a product question for you. We have the Plunge XL, and I'm looking for a little bit of assistance from you, to be honest with you. We have the Plunge XL. We do everything Gary Brecka. We have we have our bottle. We do the plunging. We do hot and cold. We do grounding. We do it all. So we do have the Plunge XL. We have a problem with the product. The sides are bulging in. And yeah, so whether you've heard of that or not, I don't know. So I'm in Canada. We've been in contact with Plunge in the US because we purchased in Canada, but Plunge USA has since taken over. The place where we bought it doesn't distribute them any longer. So we dealt with Plunge USA, and I just received yesterday, waiting since May, to be honest with you, just received yesterday an email that they are unable to do anything for us because the product itself is actually not leaking, but it's not leaking yet, but it is defective. So
yeah,
when
if
you
it's bulging inward, we're going to take this right straight to the founder.
yeah,
Ryan,
because
there the first day. So Ryan, the actual
I was
founder of Plunge, is a
hoping.
very close friend of mine.
Yeah.
Was on here the first day. So
Yes.
if you will send an email to info@theultimatehuman.com, give us your contact information.
Yeah.
I'll personally escalate this to Ryan, and we'll get that taken care of for you. I've had
I
no
appreciate
problems.
that.
I've never heard of that happening before.
Yeah, and
that doesn't
having
make me
said
very
that,
happy. And you know, we got to stand behind our products. And so
yeah, and having
if
said
it's
that, we
actually bulging
absolutely
inward, even if
love.
it's not leaking, you know,
Yeah.
it sounds to
Yeah.
me to be defective, and I'm sure that Ryan will
Yeah.
handle it for you.
And having said that, we absolutely love the Plunge, would purchase another Plunge. Nothing to do with that. It's just the product itself is appearing to be defective.
Okay, so we're gonna get that handled.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, of course.
Take one last one.
Yep, let's take one last question.
One last question. All right.
Yeah, somehow figure out how to fix that echo.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Damon. Nice to see you guys. So my
Good to see you.
question is a little bit to do with the timing of plunging and running. I'm a marathon runner. I'm in training, and I've tried it a couple different ways and gotten different advice on the internet. Some people say it's best to plunge and then wait about 30 minutes and then do your workout. And other people say if you are going to plunge, let's say after you work out, try to wait 4 to 6 hours to allow your body to recover so that you don't take away from any of the hard work you've done. And so I just wanted to get your advice. We actually just got our plunge 23 days ago. My husband and I have been doing it every morning. Love it. We're up to about 4 minutes, and it's just a great way to wake up in the morning. So I love doing it first thing, but then I've gone twice to do a run after, about 30 minutes after, and I find that I'm running about a minute slower per mile on my pace. I feel like my legs are a little bit more sluggish, but when I wait a few hours, then I have no problem. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that in terms of like timing of that.
Yeah, so I would partially agree with the information you were given. So I would say that post run, the closest that you can bring the plunge is 45 minutes. You do not have to wait 4 hours. You want the main vasodilation and muscle evacuation of like creatinine and all the muscle byproducts and the delivery of amino acids and oxygen. You want that process to have run its course. Since you're not actually weight training, you can actually have it 45 minutes after you train. It's actually very good for reducing delayed onset muscle soreness and actually, fixing and healing the joints post long run. So you can do it 45 minutes after a run. If you move from 35 minutes before your exercise to an hour and 15 minutes before, you'll actually have an improvement in your run pace, not a degradation in your run pace. Also super important to warm up. Don't stretch before you run. Stretching before you run is actually a bad idea. Warming up before you run is a very good idea. So I would move hour to an hour and 15 minutes prior to, or just 45 minutes afterward. If you're one of those people that can wake up, do a little breath work, go out for a great run, then come back, and if you have the time, plunge 45 minutes afterward, and then really get your day going, depending on how early you start, you will feel like you won the lottery if you do it in that sequence. You're super welcome. All right, guys, it's time. Plunging with the shark himself. Time to put the shark in the chili shark tank. So we're going to cut this camera, and I'm just going to head outside on the balcony for this plunge. So give us maybe 60 seconds. We're going to transition over there, and then Damon and I are going to do this plunge together. You ready?
I'm ready, baby.
I'm fired up for it, dude.
I'm ready to rock.
He's drinking. He already drank on iced coffee. He's got his shades. I'm going to put on my shades. All right, I'll see you guys in 60 seconds.
I'm going to keep the shirt on.
Sit around. All right, a little extra ice in there. Nice and chilly. Are we live?
Around. Oh, this is
all right.
Oh,
all right. So you can't put a whole lot of pressure on this.
Understood.
And you can't sit on the side, or you're going to go off there.
I like that. I like that. All right.
So they're going to give us a time, 3 minutes. I'm going to do my favorite thing, which is the 4 deep breaths. We do it like this. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna do 4?
Yeah, right. We'll do 4 deep breaths. On the 4th breath, we breathe in, and then we step in and get all the way down.
Okay.
So watch these sides. Not super. Can't sit on the side. Can't stand
No
on
problem.
it.
I got that.
Can't jump from here to here to here to there.
When I was growing up, we were really poor, so garbage pails. We played Marco Polo out of the garbage pails. You ever did Marco Polo in the garbage pail when you really poor?
I've never done Marco Polo in the garbage pail.
Pretty disgusting because we didn't have money for garbage bags. Marco Polo, so we knew not to sit on the side. The whole garbage pail turned over.
Okay, so if I'd known that history about you, I wouldn't have given you the precursor. All right. Anyway, if your kids are playing Marco Polo in a garbage pail, just
start investing in the market.
Yeah, start investing in the market.
You go.
All right, you ready? 4 breaths. Big breath in. And all the way down. Marco! Woo! Polo! Marco! You're supposed to say Polo. Polo! Marco!
Polo! You gotta keep your mind off these things, right?
Yes.
You go to Dubai a lot, right?
I do.
You know that the people in Dubai don't like the Flintstones? You know that?
No, I didn't know that.
But the people in Abu Dhabi do! Abu Dhabi do! I get a kick out of that one.
I think I just tingled a little bit. Oh, dude, I didn't expect this to be.
So, you got to keep your eyes. So tell me something.
Punch challenge, not a comedy show.
This is all right, man. This is actually pretty comfortable.
Oh, is it?
I think because you got the circle and you kind of like I have my feet against this, not too hard. My back is here.
Yeah. No, it actually does fit.
It does. It feels great actually.
Yeah. This thing's $120.
100. That's it, right? You do it within your means, right? And even if you can't do that, then you just take a cold shower for as long as possible, right?
Yeah. Cold shower. I told them they could actually freeze ice in the Tupperware, put it into the tub.
This does not feel. But is it because it's warm outside? What it does? It feel. Why is it does not feel? I have mine, as you said. I put it 50 for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. It feels much colder.
That was pretty cold. We actually sabotaged you.
Yeah,
we made it nice and cold.
This feels great. Is
it
because the warmth outside?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, because we did get hot beforehand.
Is it better to be hot beforehand or cold beforehand?
Hot.
Yeah, I find because when I drink something cold and I get in, I feel worse.
Oh yeah. For sure. That's why it's better to be warm. I like the contrast therapy, you know, sauna into the cold plunge. It's pretty toasty out here. I mean, we're in Miami, so it's in the 80s.
Yeah.
We're at 1:54 already.
Wow,
Dude, I think
that's
he
nothing.
dragged-
You see that?
He distracted
Couple
me
of
with the
dad jokes, couple of things like that. Right?
Flintstones in Abu
What
Dhabi.
do you call a pirate with 2 legs, 2 arms, and 2 eyes?
I don't know.
A beginner. These are so stupid. These are really stupid.
Beginner.
A rookie.
A rookie pirate. Yeah, because you usually lose a leg, right? You have to have a peg
Don't
leg.
overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Okay, so 2:26, dude. We are literally only have 30 seconds
This
left. This is going so fast, guys. You're welcome
Yes.
for this going so fast
Yes.
for David John and his comedy show.
So all the people that are afraid or they won't get past that first one, 'cause I think you said what, the first 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, become normal, man.
Yep.
It's okay.
You smile for the photo. I feel great. Awesome. Okay, guys. Oh my God, 10 seconds.
That's it.
This is it. 10 seconds, guys. We
2,
made it through
1,
day 3 of the cold plunge.
It's
Woo!
it. Day 3. There we go.
All right, here we go. We're good. Woo! You're gonna be really proud of yourselves, guys. This was amazing. Good job, bro. This is awesome. All right, why don't you get out of there? A little slick. It's all good. It's all good. It's even worse out here. Guys, that was fantastic. Rule breakers, VIPs. I hope that you guys feel you got value out of this. This literally was my favorite challenge. I don't know how I'm going to beat this next month.
I loved it. I learned so much just on there having people ask. I mean, that's what I do on Shark Tank, right? I listen to what people ask, the experts answer, and I pick it up, and a lot of good stuff there, man. A lot of good stuff.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations for doing that, and everybody's learning from you, and everybody is investing in just even listening to you. You know.
Yeah. That's what we want. You know, we're trying to build this community as big as possible, and I couldn't do it without the rule breakfast. And I will escalate you guys that are doing business with us. I'll make sure that you guys get treated.
Shout out to Plunge. Cool
Yep.
branding and cool affordable ways to change people's lives.
Yeah, no, Plunge is amazing. They make an excellent product. You know, this thing's $120. I am giving away the Plunge XL today, $7,000 plunge to the user that I think is just did the most unique post. I mean, I've seen families, I've seen crazy cold plunges. There've been veterans, there've been people in their 70s and 80s that have posted and tagged me. So my team's going to meet at 4 o'clock today. We're going to go through all the posts that people tagged me in. We're going to vote it. We're going to vote on it. We're going to make the big announcement tomorrow. And somebody's getting a $7,000 Plunge XL. I'm going to deliver it right to your home for free. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot,
excellent,
man. For participating in a cold plunge challenge, it costs you 0. That's a nice return on investment. Or if you paid, $47 for the VIP and you get a $7,000 cold plunge, that's a nice return on your money too. So I love you guys. I deeply appreciate you. Thank you for having the trust and confidence in me to give me your time today and for the last 2 days. We got another challenge coming up. Thanks to Jamie and John for coming to give me your time.
Absolutely.
And giving my VIP team an extra hour. We're going to have an amazing guest next month too. Thank you guys. And